You are live.
Well, here we are. We're live. Hey, everybody. Welcome to, the weekly Talking Points, Talking Politics podcast with Larry Schweikart, and Stu Turley is here with us as well. Larry, how are you today?
I'm pretty good. 2 weeks to go. I'll be glad when this is over, I'll tell you.
I'll bet, man. Me too. I wish the election were tomorrow. I feel really, really confident about it all. Before we get going on our agenda, I want to talk about Larry, and he's America's history teacher, best-selling writer of a series of books that all can be found at Amazon and at Larry's, also at Larry's website. Is it wildworldofhistory.com?
Yes, it's either wildworldofhistory.com or Wild World of Politics. If you're educators and homeschoolers, we found that they didn't care all that much for the political stuff, and the political people didn't really care that much about curriculum, so we separated the two sites.
Well, we also want to put in a plug for the election night live stream Larry's going to be involved in at Decision USA Online. Talk about what that's going to be, Larry, what the timing is going to be, and how people can access it.
Well, we're going to start at 6 o'clock Eastern time, kind of warming everybody up, laying out the races and, the kind of scorecard. It's Seth Keshel and I are doing this. Seth has done an incredible job of data mining and on all 50 states and the chances of who's going to win all 50 states, and has been called by the New York Times an election denier. So he's in the right place. And so we're going to have a whole great lineup of guests from General Mike Flynn to Carrie Lake to actor Nick Searcy to novelist Brian Freeman. We're going to try to squeeze you in, David. We get the timing right here.
Cool.
So it's just going to be fun. I mean, we did this in 2020, and above all, it was fun. We didn't make any early calls or crazy calls, but we were accurate and on point, and it's just different than going to faux news or CNN or, the Clinton Broadcasting Network, system CBS or, all Bill Clinton ABC or NBC, nothing but communists. So
so everybody need to make a point of tuning in. It's going to be great. We're going to have a good night that night, I think. And one of the first indicators of that, Larry, is something you focus on every week, I know, and you've done a great job of keeping up with. We have this boost that we're seeing now turn up in every state that has early voting going on. It just opened in Texas today, by the way. Today is first day of early voting. Go vote. But talk about the numbers we're seeing, in really in key states like North Carolina, Georgia, Pennsylvania. It all indicates a big boost for the Republican side of the equation, I think.
Right. So viewers need to understand that traditionally Democrats have utterly dominated early voting. I remember back in 2012 and 2016, we would be looking at the Democrat leads in early voting and saying, all right, how far are they above where they need to be, or how far below are they where they need to be? And in 16, early on, we knew that Trump was going to win Florida, when even his own team was calling me up there. Oh, we're going to lose Florida. I go, no, you're not. You're going to win it by 2 points, 1.5 points. And I said, trust your data. So what we're seeing everywhere, same story everywhere, is that Republican turnout is incredibly high, anywhere from 11 to 17 points higher than what it was in 20. Second of all, we're seeing overall early voting is way, way, way down, 30, 40% down. And that's very good news, again, showing enthusiasm gaps where the Democrats just aren't enthused and aren't turning out for early voting. And as a result, briefly, Republicans were actually ahead in Nevada yesterday. I think some more Clark County came in and they're behind a little bit. But the last number I saw is Republicans are only behind 1,600 votes in early votes in Nevada. the Democrats won Nevada by 40,000 early votes.
Yeah.
So these are big gaps. In North Carolina and Georgia, it's not only the number of early votes. For a while, Republicans are actually tied with Democrats in North Carolina, but it's they have racial breakdowns there too. And what we're seeing is that even despite the souls to the polls yesterday in Georgia, the big event that tries to get all the black voters out, they only briefly touched at 35%, which was their high for all of 2020. Then they fell back down, and the estimates are they're going to end up being well under 30%, something like 29, 28% black vote. Whereas the white vote is way up everywhere in North Carolina, in Florida, in Virginia, in Georgia. And so this has to be a major warning sign for Democrats. So we have early actual voting going on in Virginia where you can track it. And, this is a state that Biden won by 8 to 10 points, something like that. Yeah. And now it's 5 points and falling. Republicans are chipping away at that. I think if they can get it within 1.5 or 2, Trump can win Virginia. But they got a ways to go. But it's still nevertheless very encouraging. Pennsylvania, it was funny. There was one Democrat analyst there who was saying, well, Democrats need to have a firewall of 200,000 early votes. Then a couple hours later, he goes, we'll make that 300,000. Then a couple hours later, he said, we'll make it 400,000. And Rich Barris posted yesterday, it's going to have to be 800,000.
Wow. Oh, that's not going to happen.
To offset the Republican gains in voter registration. But here's something, of course, nobody's talked about, nor can they talk about, but I'll talk about it, which is that just because you're a Democrat returning a ballot doesn't mean that ballot's being returned for Kamala Harris. Right. With many Democrats, not a majority, but maybe as many as 10 or 15%, you're looking at Trump voters there, which is far more than you're going to get with the Liz Cheneys, cluster bomb Cheney there. Then you're going to get with the Liz Cheneys voting for Harris. So, but nobody's talking about that, nor are they talking about the Indy splits. And the independents, according to most general national polls, are somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 to 10 points in favor of Trump. Yeah. When you add all those factors together, I think that basically he already has the election in his pocket with Arizona, which we've been showing a vacillating lead for Republicans statewide, 25,000 to 35,000. It just depends on what county has dropped recently, but that's still a big early vote. They won 2020 early vote. Republicans did by 1%. So this is really big. We're looking at 10 to 15%.
So how do we know it's not a zero-sum game, Larry? A person asked me the other day, well, yeah, there's a lot more Republicans turning out early votes, but that's just taking a vote. Every early vote takes a vote away on election day that would have been cast on election day. I tell them that's probably not the case, in some part because registration advantage is up, really nationally too for the Republicans. But I mean, how would you answer that question?
Well, we have data. I like to do what Thomas Sowell said. I don't have faith in the market. I have data about the market. We have data about what's happening. And in 2 places where we've been able to measure it, Pennsylvania and either Georgia or North Carolina, I forget which, of the early voters, 20% have not voted in the previous 4 elections or have only voted in one of the previous 4 elections. So these are new voters. These are what we call low propensity voters. They don't turn out. And the reason this is so critical is because they are, according to Barris's polling, at one point they were Trump plus 17 voters. So they're way off the charts in terms of being more likely Trump voters. And number 2, it nullifies the question you asked, well, aren't they cannibalizing their election day vote? Well, no, 20% of these people are brand new voters. So you're still going to have those 4 for 4 high propensity Republican voters coming in on election day, people such as myself.
Yeah. So let's go to polling and not individual polls, but it was really interesting to me that over the course of this past week, literally every one of the polling aggregators, places like Real Clear Politics, Nate Silver, 538.org, The Economist, the Left Wing Economist magazine, every one of their aggregation quote models, they call them models. I'm not really convinced they're valid models, but they all flipped from favoring Kamala to favoring Trump to one degree or another this past week. Is that, you think, a legitimate thing to be looking at? And, is it really indicative, I think? And, the other thing that also has flipped recently is the betting odds at Polymarket and other sites. So, I mean, this is just kind of a general reflection of the momentum in the election campaign, right?
Right. And something else to note about all those polls, except for Barris, who's going to continue to poll, is many of them said, "Oh, this is our final poll."
Right.
Really? 2 weeks out, you're doing a final poll?
Yeah.
Why is that? And the answer is almost all of them showed Harris like up 1/10 of a point or some ridiculously tiny margin, so they could still say Harris was ahead. But they all moved, as you said, in the Trump direction. And the reason for that is they all want to be within that margin of error after Election Day when Trump wins. They can say, well, our poll was right. We had it within the margin of error, and Trump won by 2, and we had him losing by 1/10 of a point. That's what's going on there. You've got a number of good pollsters like Trafalgar and Atlas. I didn't like Atlas's state polls, but hey, you can't cherry pick. But nevertheless, most of the state polls now have Trump ahead in Michigan and Pennsylvania, as well as, of course, in Georgia, Arizona, North Carolina. These states were not close. Arizona, North Carolina, Georgia are not swing states. They are Republican states. So the polling is interesting. I think that they're stopping now so they don't have to show a Trump lead.
Even Atlas, though, their state polls, they had a national poll with Trump having 3.6% lead,
huge.
Which is right in line with Rich Barris's finding, right in line with Trafalgar. They're really reliable pollsters. But they also, in 5 of the 7 battleground states, had Trump with leads. Now, some of them were tiny, a tenth of a point, but really it was only Wisconsin and Nevada, they showed Harris with a lead, right? And then there was one state that was tied. I forget, Michigan maybe was tied. So, I mean, even that poll, where, the average, if you look at Real Clear Politics, Trump's leading in every one of those states on the average. Well, but even in that poll, it's 5 out of 8.
Yeah, and Trump's led in Michigan. The last 3 local pollsters who polled there, he's led in all of those by as many as 3 points, which is pretty amazing because, again, for our viewers who don't get this a lot, Trump underpolls by 2.1 points in every election. So whatever you see in any poll, you got to add 2.1 to Trump and take 2.1 from Harris. The Nevada thing, and by the way, one of the things these pollsters are doing is that they finally caught up with me. They caught up with my registration, and not just me, but a lot of people. Seth Keshel's been doing this. They caught up with the reality of registration, which is these states are registering Republicans at outlandishly high rates compared to Democrats, so they're trying to adjust their polls to capture that very, very late. But you can see in Nevada, for example, which has had such an incredibly strong Republican turnout, John Ralston, who is the data guru of Nevada, basically said to Democrats, hold on to your hats, because unless things change, you're in for a long night. He's been very guarded about that, but you can tell by his tone that he's seeing warning signs everywhere.
Yeah, and if Arizona is going to be a fairly comfortable Trump win, you would expect Nevada, at best, for Harris to be about a 50-50 proposition. Nevada is obviously a little more Democrat than Arizona, but they're pretty close. The one that is concerning to me more than any of the other non-battleground states, I think, is North Carolina. And that's mainly because of the hurricane, which impacted, it was like a seeing eye hurricane that it just picked out Republican counties to devastate. I wonder if you have any concern about North Carolina, or if you feel like it's pretty safe.
I think it's in the bag. I've always had North Carolina in the bag at 4 points, Trump +4. At the most, the storm damage might make it Trump 3.5. However, we've seen a lot of stuff on Twitter about those counties, and they seem to be doing okay. And remember that it hurt Democrats a lot too, because it hit Asheville, and it closed down 2 of the universities in the region permanently. They won't be open on election day, which always helps Republicans a little bit. So I'm not at all concerned about Nevada. I think about North Carolina. I think Nevada will be the closest, Nevada and Wisconsin, and I think Trump gets both of those by a point, maybe 50 to 100,000 votes in each. Barris goes on and on about how difficult Wisconsin is to poll, because Wisconsin has so many rural voters. But a couple of things to note. Seth Keshel pointed out that Milwaukee is down 30,000 Democrats in its registration, number one. And number two, there was a story out last week that Harris pulled all of her advertising from Nevada and every place but Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Milwaukee. Stu?
Larry, Scott Pressler on X 1 hour ago says, holy cow, we got Pennsylvania voter registration data. It's devastating for the Democrats. Wow, something is coming. I got to give that man a hug. Right now, I want to hug that man.
Scott Pressler is, he's a warrior.
He has done great. And then they had a GoFundMe thing for him to buy him a car, and they're holding his funds. Go figure that out.
Yeah, GoFundMe is this sorry sons of bitches. Excuse my language. Another thing that's gone on in the polling world, and of course, there's a lot of shenanigans, as we know, with pollsters like Morning Consult.
Dave, let me make one point about Scott, if I could. We want Decision USA to go on and not just die off after the election. It's going to become kind of a ongoing political site. And one of the things we discussed and want to do is, assuming the election goes the right way, is that after the election, maybe in the spring, I don't know, but we want to have a dinner to honor Scott and bring him out to Phoenix and present him with a cash award and an award for his incredible contributions to electing President Trump. So that's one of the things that's on the agenda with Decision USA.
That's fantastic. I mean, if anybody deserves it, it's him. He has, he's just a powerhouse. I don't know how he has the energy to do everything he's been doing out there.
He and Trump do blood transfusions for each other.
Yeah. Trump, he's another tireless guy. It's and we're going to get to that McDonald's thing here in a minute, but I want to talk about one last thing related to polling first, is the fact that some of these pollsters, I think in an effort to try to boost Harris in Florida and Texas, began including Florida and Texas about a month ago in their swing state polls, which was patently absurd to begin with.
Well, now, hold on, Dave. I think we should greatly encourage Democrats that if you want to donate, please, we really need your money down there in Texas. You're close.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's this far away in both Texas and Florida. So please donate to Texas and Florida because you can win those states.
Right. And this applies not just to the presidential race, but to the 2 Senate races in those states. Rick Scott is going to win that Senate race in Florida. Ted Cruz is going to win that Senate race in Texas. In Texas, it's not going to be especially close. Cruz is going to win by somewhere between 6 and 9% of the vote, and then Trump's going to have a double-digit win.
You think it's going to be that high?
Yeah, I do.
I had him at 4, but I will tell you this: the liberals love Earth Day so much, and I love it how every election season they have a great money burning for beta male O'Rourke. They just build these giant piles of money and set it on fire for him. It's really very eco-friendly.
Well, they did the same thing for Colin Allred in this cycle. They've spent well over $100 million on Allred's campaign.
Good burn.
And Cruz didn't really go up on television till the 1st of October. I mean, he just kept his money, and I mean, he's destroying the guy.
Well, you know, this is an old myth. And for a while, it was probably true in the 60s, 70s, maybe the 80s. But the value of television advertising is diminished so much anymore because, number one, the youths, the young people don't watch television at all. Right. They watch phones, they watch iPads, they watch TikTok. Screens, and they don't watch CBS, ABC, NBC, certainly don't watch the We channel or the O channel, right? And where, I mean, you look at these, my wife occasionally tunes into one of these and, what are you doing? Well, I like to see some of the houses and so forth. But anyway, one Harris ad after another. We're talking 10 Harris ads in the course of an hour, which is insane. They're trying to get me on my gaming sites. I'll go in on a gaming site like World of Warcraft or something. I'm getting Harris ads there, you know.
Oh my God.
Or even some of these prophetic pastors, preachers that I watch. You know, they're putting like Harris herself said, you got the wrong rally.
Just give Ted a cruise, tedcruz.org, tedcruz.org. And I saw him interviewed the other day and he managed to sneak that in. So donate. I immediately called up and I donated to tedcruz.org, and that is tedcruz.org, so that you can go help, because our cotton picking Republican leaders are not helping him out, and they all need to be voted out.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to get all grumpy.
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing this, because they're not helping Lake either, which is why Elon Musk has come in. And recently, depending on the pollster, it looks like Lake is either close or ahead. She says her internals have her up 1. I've seen public polling with her down just 2. If she's within 1 or 2, she's in, because Trump will pull her in with his coattails.
Larry, do you think we had 80 million votes for Trump last time?
No, 74 million for
74.
Trump.
74. Do you think we can get to 94 million votes for him?
I think he'll come in around 85 million real votes.
Real votes.
But they're not dead people, and they're not Martians. They're
real. He won't win the dead vote. Republicans
is that enough to overcome a rigged election?
Yeah, they're having real trouble rigging it. You see it everywhere. All of their big wigs, the Carvilles and so, they know they haven't rigged it. You can tell by what they're saying and their desperation that they know they haven't rigged it. They don't have. In fact, this is something I thought we'd get into later. But these announcements by the states that they're going to delay the call on election night is, to me, a symbol that they got nothing, that they're going to try to string the call out for 2 or 3 days and just hope something materializes. But basically, they're saying if it doesn't materialize by Friday, we're done anyway, which I think the reality is such that Trump's going to be ahead so much that they can't even say, well, we have overseas ballots and it won't matter. And they're probably going to end up one way or another calling the election for Trump on election night.
It's such a ridiculous thing. The French are able to count their votes on election night.
How embarrassing.
I mean, if the French can do it, can't Americans do it? Florida always has their votes counted by midnight every cycle. Florida is the 3rd biggest state in the country, population-wise. I'm sorry, Stu. Go ahead.
Unda quat cinq ses. Yeah, I can count in French. Good grief.
But it's just so mind-boggling that people tolerate this crap. We've got the Republican Secretary of State in Georgia, Raffensperger, yesterday on Meet the Press, spouting this utter nonsense about not being able to count the votes on election night. No, I mean, and Republican voters in that state would reelect him tomorrow. And that just drives me out of my mind. That guy's he's either hopelessly incompetent and stupid, or he's a crook. Those are your 2 choices. Either way, you shouldn't be electing him again. I mean, it's just maddening to me.
Well, I think Trump, once he's in, he needs to play real nice to Kemp and Raffensperger and all these kinds of people until he gets in, and then he needs to cut them off. They shouldn't get so much as a dog catcher position in this. Well, I don't know. I might be willing to send Nikki Haley as ambassador to Yemen. I think that might be
Yemen,
a wonderful place for her. But most of these people, I wouldn't appoint.
I would
anyway.
not even allow her access to the men's room. She is such a deep state troll. Did I say that on live television?
Yeah,
she is. But, I mean, that's why she's been talking, being so supportive of Trump, because she wants a job in the administration again.
Sure.
And if he gives her one, then, I mean, it's just, he's hopeless in terms of judging people.
Well, I'd say give her one if she agrees to change her name to Nick Nack Bettywhack, give a Yucca bomb.
Okay, I'll go with that.
Yeah, and that's the thing about it, the bomb part, right? Because if you're giving her a job, then you might as well give Liz Cheney a job in your administration.
No.
Or Bill Kristol, or any of these other warmongers.
No prisoners.
Yeah, no, it just you
sweep the leg, as they said in Karate Kid. Sweep the leg.
You both bring up a great point, and I did not realize that when I watched this banquet that he went to, that Kamala did not go to. The Al Smith dinner was absolutely an historic event, and I did not realize that he was talking to Chucky Boy, and absolutely. They were sitting next to each other, and the Cardinal was right in front of them. The man was hilarious. David, we have the 5 top lines out of that.
Yes, please play it. We need a little comic relief. I'm getting excited here.
I'm getting worked up. I'm about to get my defibrillator out.
This was the most brilliant.
Saying that men have periods, but then I met Tim Walz. Well, I'd better wrap up because Mayor Adams told me earlier that I needed to make this one very quick, especially the city has reserved this room for a large group of illegal aliens coming in from Texas. There's a group called White Dudes for Harris. Have you seen this? White Dudes for Harris. Anybody know? Are some of you here? White Dudes for Harris? Doesn't sound like it. But I'm not worried about them at all because their wives and their wives' lovers are all voting for me. A major issue in this race is child care, and Kamala has put forward a concept of a plan. A lot of people don't like it. The only piece of advice I would have for her in the event that she wins would be not to let her husband, Doug, anywhere near the nannies. Just That's a nasty one. Chuck Schumer is here looking very glum. Doesn't he look glum? He looks glum. But look on the bright side, Chuck, considering how woke your party has become. If Kamala loses, you still have a chance to become the first woman president.
I mean, now look at Donald Trump when President Trump, and he's looking at that. Now look at this. Can you imagine? That's what it would look like.
I got to say, I don't know who wrote that speech for him.
That's good.
All those jokes. That was an absolute masterpiece of comic writing. I mean, it was just a delivery too. I mean, Trump is so good.
And did you see the prosecutor back behind?
Letitia James sitting back there. And,
wow. And Bloomberg. Oh my gosh. And then de Blasio was in the back of the room and he goes, "Oh no, Blasio's a horrible man."
Yeah, wow. He should. Yeah, that was really, and of course, I think he ad-libbed that one. I don't think that was in his text. I think he just saw de Blasio sitting there. Well, so said, "I don't give a shit if this is supposed to be comedy." Bill de Blasio was an awful mayor.
He was. Well, but then Trump goes and goes to McDonald's, and it was a scene right out of Norman Rockwell. Here he is in his suit and tie with the apron on, and no junk on him anywhere, and he's salting the French fries. Hey, do they get extra salt? And he's handing out bags of food to people, and they're all talking to him, and almost universally, the Trump haters or the Jonah Goldbergs or even the Eric Erickson types are out there. Well, it worked, but this kind of stunt does this stunt. They always refer to it as a stunt. And I want to blow my top at that, because is kissing a baby a stunt? Is going to a construction site, putting on a hard hat, a stunt? Is holding a shotgun that you can't load in an open field a stunt? I mean, every aspect of a campaign is designed to show some element of the person's policies or character. And this certainly did this. And it's driving him crazy that he was able to just go there and interact with the employees, with the manager, with the customers, and everybody loved it. And so I just,
and the
this
number
term
of
stunt drives me nuts.
turned out in Pennsylvania for this was nuts.
Yeah, and this was in a heavily Democratic part of Philadelphia, which the whole city's heavily Democratic.
Hey,
and there were thousands of people.
David and Larry, this just came in. Trump was just awarded as McDonald's Employee of the Year. Here it is.
I'm having a lot of fun here, everybody.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
Hello, everybody.
You can take this, right?
Everybody.
Papa, I'm loving it, and they're loving me. I'm honored to have been elected McDonald's Employee of the Year. What a tremendous honor. And the fake news is saying the only reason I won is because of Russia, Russia, Russia. What a bunch of horrible people. Such a disgrace. On day one at McDonald's, I fixed the ice cream machine. Nobody ever thought that was possible, but I did it. I fixed the ice cream machine, and on day one as your president, I'm going to fix our great country. We will have a great country once again. I just found out that I'm being indicted again. They say I put too much salt on the French fries, too much salt, and they say that I had a 15-minute lunch break that took 17 minutes, and that's because the fake news wouldn't let me go. They wanted to know how I was doing, and I was doing so well. Kamala never worked at McDonald's, and the reason we know that is because they wouldn't let her do her job interview with a teleprompter. She said, that's not going to work. We need the teleprompter, and it didn't work out. I did so well at McDonald's, they named a new meal after me. It's called the McWin, and it comes in small, medium, and MAGA-sized, and we're going to have a MAGA-sized McWin on November 5th, so get out and vote, and let's make America great again, believe me.
Boy, that guy has got it dead,
He really does.
to rights. I mean, it's just perfect. Absolutely perfect.
David, I want to give your Substack, a blackmon.substack.com, a shout out. And there, did I do that? Sorry about that. But this is off of your Substack.
Yeah. Oh, right. He went to the football game that evening, right? The whole crowd's doing this, and NBC is pretending nothing's happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. NBC's so pathetic. I mean, they didn't even make mention of the fact he was in the stadium. Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
And other videos from around the stadium, guys, were just unbelievable. The whole stadium went nuts. You could see it all over the stadium.
And a rather well-endowed young lady got down onto the field in the middle of the third quarter, carrying a sign that said, Harris equals open borders, Trump equals border security. And of course, they took her down and arrested her. And
I'm surprised you read the sign.
yeah, well, that's all I was interested in, you know. It's like reading the articles. Anyway, so we contrast that, you know, and this is the week, pretty emblematic of the week Trump had all week, really. It was an incredibly successful, productive campaigning week. But Harris, meanwhile, does this interview with Bret Baier, and I never will understand why her handlers decided it was a good idea to put her in an interview on Fox News with Bret Baier, but it didn't go well. And Stu has this illustration that was pretty much typical of what happened in the interview. Every answer she gave was basically some iteration of it's Donald Trump's fault. It didn't matter what the question was. It always boiled down to that. I thought Bret Baier, what he did, and of course everybody in the media attacked him, but what he did was exactly what Walter Cronkite or Mike Wallace would have done with that interview 50 years ago, which was commit an act of actual journalism and ask her questions that the people actually care about, which is the first time she's been subjected to that. And so how do we explain, guys, her staff deciding that was a good idea? It's unimaginable to me. They thought it would go well.
Well, it's pure desperation.
Yeah.
They knew they were losing. Again, you've got to understand that they know what the real polls are and that the hoax pollsters are not the real pollsters. They know she's behind in all of these swing states, every one, including, I think, Nevada. And they knew that they had to do something that would be a game changer here. They're down 28-3 in the fourth quarter. And, they have to have a, 20-point play here. So they took a long shot on going on to Fox. They thought that Bear might be as stupid as he was when he did the debate a couple of years ago. But instead, as you said, he actually did journalism and asked real questions. And no matter how he asked them, she refused to answer them. I would have gone one step further and said, please, without using the words Donald Trump, tell me what your position is. I would have even framed it that way. So we're not talking about Donald Trump. We're talking about you.
Yeah. No, I know. And she just, there's so many indicators now of what she's doing, how she's behaving, that demonstrate that she knows she's in trouble. And they're just desperate to find some, like they're, now they're just inventing stuff. On Friday, I think it was, she talked about how Trump's exhausted. He keeps canceling events. He can't get through events. Literally, that's not happened at all. I mean, it's just complete fabrication.
And then Tim Walz goes and gives a speech and he says, we're fatigued. We're really fatigued.
Oh, really tired. So what happens to Tim Walz? Oh, go ahead, Stu.
And this is what is our current president?
Yeah. Oh, my God.
Sorry.
By the way, that reminds me, there's an article at NBC this morning announcing that Joe Biden has said he will no longer campaign with Kamala Harris for the duration of the campaign. You think that was his decision or her decision?
I think it was Jill's.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think it matters one way or another.
I think Jill is extremely mad that she got thrown out of the presidency.
Yeah.
What's interesting is they also brought back Obama, or as I call him, Zero,
for a minute,
because that was his accomplishments in office, Zero. And they brought him back. And, the Democrats have operated under a whole bunch of just illusions for years. And one of their illusions is that he was a big vote getter for anybody but himself. He never, ever got out the vote. If in 2010, they got stomped by the Tea Party. He has never had coattails in any of his elections. And all he does is kind of make these allusions to his own greatness that cause other people to go, well, Harris isn't that good then compared to you. But he went even further this time and he insulted all sorts of black men. And the response on social media from black men was pretty damning. They said, one of the comments was, I have a daddy and you ain't him.
And Obama's not the only one, former Democratic president, who doesn't have any coattails in future elections after he leaves office, right? They tried it with Jimmy Carter in 1984, and it was a complete disaster. They tried it with Bill Clinton in 2000, 2004, 2008, complete disaster. They brought Clinton back last week. And what does he do? He talks about how there hasn't been any vetting of all these criminal illegal aliens coming into the country. If only they'd been properly vetted, these women would still be alive, which is true. But whose fault is that? It's not Donald Trump's fault.
Clinton is such a, I'm going to miss him when he's gone because he was so funny. He goes, I did not have sex with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. And everybody thought that he was talking to Hillary, and he was talking to Monica. I did not have sex with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. Hillary? Oh, no.
Oh, God. Yeah, we're going to miss Slick Willie when he's gone. He looked terrible, too. My God, he looks awful.
And Carter was literally a cadaver. They literally had to take him on his deathbed up the vote.
Which brings me. Oh, go ahead, Stu.
The one thing I will say about Jimmy Carter, he was the worst president until this one. So he did live to see that he was no longer the worst president.
That's
But
true.
I know that he's going to keep voting for a couple more decades after he's dead.
Yeah, well, yeah, he'll become completely reliable Democratic voter.
Right.
That brings me to my next question, which is October surprise. It occurred to me last week, really a couple of weeks ago, that the death of Jimmy Carter could end up being the late October surprise in this election campaign. Carter has supposedly been in hospice care for 19 months now. I've never heard of anyone lasting that long in hospice care.
Why would that be an October surprise?
I
And
don't
why would
see
it
that.
matter?
Well, because you make this week-long national event out of it, which the Democrats are. I mean, they did it for John McCain, for crying out loud.
I don't think that would be a big enough event. I think if we look to Cuba as an example of what kind of crap they're willing to do, Cuba is now on day four of a day four of a blackout. And in the Reuters article, there's a one line in there that says the United States denies any responsibility. That's a warning flag for me. Going, and the grid is so vulnerable that who knows what these knuckleheads are going to do. I think we're about.
We're at the point where it would take a major kind of intervention event to change the dynamics in this race. But I've been just wondering, what in the world could it be?
See, I don't see it. And once again, I think that thinking, David, is reflective of the fact that for so long Republicans have been the abused spouse. And
yes,
we always think they got another blow coming, that they're going to hit me again. And in fact, this is the most incompetent group of Pauls on the Democrat side that I've seen out of them since 2008. Obama's team were competent. I didn't like them, but they knew what they were doing. They knew how to message. They knew how to hit the right notes with the public. And this group, beginning with the decision to use lawfare, that was the biggest error they made. And then the decision to continue with Biden and thinking he could stand up under a campaign was the second stupidest thing they did. And then without COVID, they never planned for any kind of steal. So I think that's out of the door. And then there's something else that's happening that I think as a historian is incredibly important. And that is that after ignoring it or refusing it for a couple of cycles, Republicans are embracing early voting. And the fact that they're embracing early voting is a major milestone, because it now means that the Democrats, the first time the Republicans win early voting, Democrats are going to call to end it. And we can actually get rid of early voting by winning it and go back to single day voting on day one. So this has been a massive shift that they were not prepared for. They never saw this coming. They never saw the voter registration shift. They never saw the impact of having an absolutely senile, pants-filled puddle dipper walking around all the time in public, and people going, they put him up there? What are they going to do to our country if they allow this idiot to walk around? So,
and by the way, if anybody thinks Larry's crazy saying the Democrats will soon be opposed to early voting if it works out for the Republicans, just go back and take a little look at history about where the Democratic Party stood on the question of illegal immigration before Barack Obama assumed the presidency. Mm-hmm. They were they were fiercely anti-illegal immigration because they were the tool of the labor unions, right?
Right.
And that all changed with Obama, and immediately on a dime, they all became proponents of open borders. Right. They will do it again. Larry's absolutely right. If they lose this election and can blame it on early voting shift, they'll begin to oppose early voting again.
And if they do that, we need to be ready to say, okay, we're with you. It's
absolutely.
It's like the tariff of abominations, where John C. Calhoun thought he was going to pull a fast one on the pro-tariff people, and he wrote a tariff that was so high it would hurt the northern industries. And he said, surely they'll never go along with that. And they said, well, It's a tariff. We like tariffs. They voted in, and all of a sudden Calhoun's he's voting against his own bill that he wrote, right? Yeah. And so that's what's going to happen here with the Democrats. Rui Teixeira, who's one of the most incisive Democrats out there, has had a couple of columns where, well, it's a close election. Well, how are things going to change after this? And even he now is reluctant to grasp what is about to hit them, which is this sea change and a total inversion of the parties, to which the Democrats have become the U party, not the YOU party, the U, with the uber rich on one side and the uber poor on the other, and everybody else in between they don't give a crap about. And the Republicans have a chance now to become the party of the labor unions, the common man, the non-college graduate, the college graduates who are living in rural areas. They won the rural area college graduates. Right, they just don't win the college graduates in Atlanta or DC or places like that.
New York City.
And Trump is the candidate for the cats and the pets.
There you go.
They're out protecting him. I'll tell you what, though, I really want every single cat and dog to rise up and bite their owners if they vote for a Democrat or a rhino. I want all rhinos run out of the country. And this just came in. This is brand new. I can't believe this just came in off the wire here. Look at these cats. I mean, they are protected. Look at them. They're even.
I love that bumper car scene. That's awesome.
The cats are voting for Trump. They are now naturalized citizens. Look at that.
Hey,
I don't know who does
dead people can vote, so can cats.
Look, I love this one when he's up there jamming with a orange guitar, Orange Man.
Who needs the Secret Service when you have armed cats?
I'll tell you what. Sorry, David. I did not mean to interrupt. But look at it. They're even finishing. And we will have no energy transition because of AI, and thank goodness, because we got to have our animated cat.
You're dang right, man. We got to have Grok and we got to have AI. We need that stuff. But yeah, on Larry's point of realignment, he's right. He's absolutely right. If Trump wins this election, we're going to have a major realignment among the two political parties. We're really already seeing it.
And David, I know you've been following this, but this was crucial. This came out today, an article about how the techies are embracing nukes. I think it was Arena Slav who was talking about this. And they are going to have no choice. They'll either have to be green or they'll be techies, but they can't be both. Because tech demands so much energy.
David, Larry, they see Microsoft and Google and have already aligned with the nukes. But then they put a stop to closing coal plants. Yep. So they don't give a rat's rear. So I'm going to just go on record and say that I identify only as a Republican in voting to get past this election. I am then going to an independent because I am tired of the Republican Party. I am more mega than I am Republican, and you better get your act together, Republicans, because you're not taking care of America. Sorry for getting all violent.
Right. So you're saying rhinos like Lisa Murkowski could be an endangered species?
The one from Alaska, and you take a look at
Susan Collins from Maine.
Susan Tom Collins, who's always inebriated.
I am tired of the Republican Party not standing up for America.
Well, and you have the lobbyists who have their hooks in so many of the Republicans on the Hill, whether it's big pharma, big ag, all of these things, and so their votes are just horrific. But there was another point I wanted to make regarding those nukes. I'm trying to remember what it was now. Anyway, I'll get back to it.
So Lisa Murkowski, for anyone who missed it, on Sunday evening, had an event at which she endorsed Mary Peltola, the Democratic incumbent congressperson from Alaska, over Nick Begich, the Republican challenger, Nick Begich. And I'm going to tell y'all why this happened. It's not just that Lisa Murkowski is just a liberal Democrat in Republican clothing. It's because Nick Begich has been a longtime critic of the Pentagon's HARP program, which is based in Alaska, which is a program that it's a secret research program, but it's not really much of a secret. They heat the ionosphere to in attempts to control weather and disrupt communications and potentially even disrupt the power grid. And Nick Begich has been one of the chief critics of that for 20 years now. And I guarantee you that played a major role in that endorsement by Lisa Murkowski, the warmonger.
Yeah, right now it looks as though we will have a 53-47 Senate picking up West Virginia, Montana, and Ohio. Lake is close in Arizona. McCormick has been actually up in a couple of polls recently. Rogers in Michigan is close. Hovind is up in one poll in Wisconsin. You could conceivably have a 57-43 Senate. But to me,
if you have a landslide in the president's race, you could, right?
Yeah. My key number is 53. If we get to 53 plus J.D. Vance, that nullifies Susan Tom Collins, Murkowski, and whatever idiot that Utah sees fit to send to us, because they're just incapable of sending a decent senator after Orrin Hatch left.
It's such a pretty state too, and to be so incompetent when it comes to voting, it's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Mittens should be on the first one with all the illegal aliens leaving the country.
to Mars. To Mars. Yeah.
No,
I know what I was going to tell you. Say, David.
I want to go there with Elon.
Back to the techies, the nukes, the greens, and so on and so forth. I think that also Irina Slav that was talking about various changes that were requiring them in Germany to cut down forests and to regulate gardens, regulate
regulating gardens.
Now, mark my words. Okay, it's October 21st, 2024. Put this down. Before too long, say within 5 years, you will see the green energy transition people demanding that we cut down the Amazon rainforest because of the CO2.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's already happening.
It's already happening in a big way. Yeah,
it is. And it's because of California. California is importing, Larry, 70% of the oil that's produced out of the rainforest by China. So rather than use their own oil and gas that is in Kern County, that is a beautiful oil producing,
an enormous resource,
enormous resource. They get Governor Hair Slick Willie, who, if he dived into the bay, would cause an oil slick greater than the Exxon Valdez. So this man has signed in a bill that is now outlawing that, and then basically putting in enforcing reserves to do price controls. Well, that's going to add everything else. So Phillips, ConocoPhillips said we're closing down our refinery. Good. So Larry, what you're going to see is Californians buying gasoline from China.
Yeah.
So there are
until Trump says you can't do that, and puts a halt on it. Here's the thing, and here's another of these historical shifts that we are seeing. I mean, we're watching. So the other day, Elon Musk docked a rocket vertically.
Oh my God!
Against a silo.
Most incredible thing ever.
NASA has not been able to do that for 40 years. He's been at it since 2003. In half the time, he's docked a rocket. Okay.
Yeah.
This marks a major transition away from NASA being the space exploration transportation body. And it also marks in people's mind the fact that, well, you know what? The government isn't very good at that either.
Right.
People are starting to see the government sucks at almost everything. So I think what we're going to see with California is that where they used to be referred to as, well, as California goes, so goes the nation. I think now California is the tail on the dog, and that other states are now leading the way, and California is now behind the times in almost everything. They are retarded, the retarded state.
Well, you know, it has been amazing. You know, we have 19 other states who have laws in place that says anything California does on auto emissions, they have to copy. And so California has been a big leader on energy issues for a long time among those other states. And they're states typically governed by Democrats. That's a trend that has to stop in this country, because California is an energy basket case. They are the Germany of the United States in terms of energy policy. They've copied every idiot idea the Germans have ever had. And yeah, we need Texas to be the model for the rest of the country on energy.
You know, it's interesting you say they're the Germans of America, because I read an article the other day on various words that men should not use with women that they want to be friends with, and one of them was hun, and I took that to mean you don't want to be calling these women Germans,
Yeah, no, don't call them Huns.
Listen, hun, go back to your foxhole.
Oh God. Well, listen, guys, this has been fantastic. We've got 2 weeks and 1 day till Election Day. Early voting, as I mentioned earlier, just started in Texas. So all my Texas friends need to get out and vote today. Get those votes in the bank. Take a neighbor with you if you can find one. And let's do our part to make sure this election goes the right way. Yeah, anything else for the good of the order, gentlemen?
Go to tedcruz.org and vote. I'll be voting this week as well.
All right.
Well, and remember to go to Decision USA online, and we got great swag there. I got some stuff there. There's really good swag in addition to everything else. But make sure you share the site with other people. You don't want to be stuck watching faux news or MSNBC on election night. And if you can, donate, and if you can, be a sponsor. We need all the sponsors we can get. Decision Desk is not cheap.
All right, guys. Talk to you again the same time next week. Everybody tune in again next Monday. We'll give you the latest. Y'all have a great week.